Hello, what's up guys? Welcome to the Magic Mirror. If this is your first time watching a long form video, you're in for a treat because on this video I'll be updating a conversation that I started last year called Healers Need Healing. Last year I actually started a series of playlists on my Facebook page where I may or may not have pulled cards on a specific topic that I felt like the collective was struggling with, or just that we really needed a deep dive on. I am first a consumer of spirituality, right? I buy spiritual things, I watch other spiritual people's content, I occasionally book readings, and I study spiritual things to raise my own awareness, right? However, over the years, I have also dibbled and dabbled in the space of practitioner. I've done my own private sessions and readings and workshops. I've offered services to people, and I will continue doing that in the future because from several practitioners and readers, I have been told that I have a special place in the spiritual world. I'm kind of sort of documenting myself, even though I'm not initiated. I don't necessarily have any ties or relationships with a certain practice either. The only thing that I do is I study and I learn things on my own. Like I said, occasionally I will book readings with people just to kind of check in and see if I'm missing any information that maybe I could directly tap in and get with my own spirits and ancestors. But over the years I've just kind of more so been focusing on deepening my connection and my relationship and my understanding of the spiritual, as well as getting more clear and fine-tuning what is for me and what's not for me. Because a lot of people dive into the spiritual community and they get sucked into the new age practices and teachings. Really, a lot of that new age stuff is just a remix of ancient knowledge and ancient teachings. For me, I always want to be tapped in with what's for me. We're gonna talk a little bit more about that when I get deeper into the video. So all of that to say, if you are interested on seeing how this conversation first got started, there's a part 1 and part 2 called Healers Need Healing. Gosh, let me go look it up real quick because I don't want to misquote the title and I'm telling you to go look at a video. This is called Even the Healer Needs Healing, Reaching New Heights with Less Ego. That is what this 2-part video series is called, that I released in 2024 last year. I believe around in 2023. December 2023, I believe. So it's almost a little over a year. But I started that conversation, and the reason why I did that was because as I started off being a consumer of spirituality, someone who has roots in Christianity, and then as I got closer to my mid-20s, in my early and mid-20s, I really slowly took baby steps into exploring more indigenous African and diasporic traditions. That's when I kind of found out a lot about myself and was able to connect the missing links between why I just had certain inclinations and just the missing links of my heritage. Because for a lot of us Black and brown people, we have just kind of grown up in America, and all of our culture and all of our heritage has kind of been hidden from us because it's been taken and stolen from us, right? And so it's kind of like this awkward little game that we end up playing, where a lot of our culture and our heritage and our spirituality is hidden in plain sight from us, right? And so everybody else knows what's what except us. You know, one of the biggest things that I was able to uncover for myself was the ties to my Haitian and my Taino roots in the Caribbean. I'm a Creole, I'm a Louisiana Creole woman, okay, through and through, okay? But, you know, growing up in Black environments, you know, I wasn't necessarily seen and accepted as a Black girl. And so that was kind of like a little difficult. You know, it always made me question, like, what am I? Where does my family really come from? You know, and what am I really mixed with, right? Because like, even if I told people I'm Black, they still ask me, okay, but like, yeah, but what are you mixed with? And I didn't always know how to answer that, besides being like, well, I'm Creole, right? But now I know for myself that, well, I have a lot of Native American ancestry that makes up a lot of the features that you see today, you know, except, you know, the hair. This is not my hair. So shout out to, you know, these little online shops where you can get some cute hair, okay, baby? But, you know, nonetheless, my real hair is very beautiful and long as well. Yeah, you know, so just like connecting with that and knowing that, oh, so I don't have to be Christian. Like, there's more to this than just bloop, you're in America, and bloop, this is your religion, and bloop, everything's set up for you. Like, there's actually a history that came before what I grew up in and what was just given to me, right? But I had to dig and I had to search to get that information. That is one of the biggest things I gained, and I'm supposed to be giving you guys an introduction to this topic and this reading, okay, because we are going to get a little reading today. All of that to say that being introduced to different spiritual spaces, communities, teachings, and practices, it also exposed me to a lot of different types of people. A lot of the spiritual information that I retained happened in the pandemic, when we were locked in, when we had a quarantine. So that also means that a lot of the information that I received was through the internet. Yes, in online spaces, on Zoom meetings, okay, taking spiritual classes and astrology courses online with, you know, teachers and whatnot. I can say, you know, it was a beautiful experience at the time, because nobody just wanted to be isolated like that, you know, like by force. But that's just kind of the times we were living through. So definitely having those Zoom meetings and those spiritual courses and classes and, you know, discussion rooms and all of that stuff, it definitely helped me to get through that time. And I talk about this so much on this platform, of just how I kind of got immersed into the internet space, how I became a content creator, why I became a content creator. So I hope that you guys are very, very clear on, you know, how I got here, because I'll be saying that over and over again. With that, however, I also talk about the downsides of engaging with these communities online and being a content creator and being online in general, right? And so, of course, there's a downside to engaging with spirituality and spiritual practitioners and so forth and so on through online platforms. But I think that those same issues also could translate offline as well. I haven't really had too many experiences with different practitioners offline. I guess I would like to, but that's just not where I am right now in my journey. The issue that I really addressed in that initial video where I introduced this conversation, even the healers need healing, the healers needed healing at the time, because I realized that a lot of so-called practitioners whatever their given title may be, whether they were initiated or not. A lot of these practitioners and spiritualists online, I saw and experienced a lot of ego. It was a lot of ego in the spiritual teachings that they would, put online. A lot of ego in the messages they would give to the collective. And just a lot of ego dealing with their clients or fan base, if you will. We can use spiritual hierarchy. We can use the position of teacher. We can use the position of practitioner to kind of elevate ourselves above others, right? We can kind of put ourselves on this self-proclaimed pedestal, and we end up treating the very people who are maybe supporting the work that we're doing, who we're in community with, treating other spiritualists who may have good offerings and work. We end up treating them like all because we have X number of followers, or we have a successful platform or successful workshops or a successful product that we're selling, right? And so, some practitioners, I'm not saying this is everybody, because it definitely ain't me. I don't have, no products that I done sold that's sold out. I don't have a sold out workshop. I don't have sold out retreats. I don't have none of that. I'm just a girl with technology recording spirit messages, period. And if you want to support that, and if you do want to book with me, hey, I would love to help you along your journey, and I would love to do life with you, because I really feel like that's what this is about. Me reaching out and saying, hey, I see you. And if you see me, and if you really want to do the work, let's do it together. Because I'm already doing the work by myself. I'm just inviting you to join in. That's it. Being on the flip side of being the student, being the consumer, like I said, I have experienced a lot of ego from more than one, spiritual person or practitioner. And like I said, a spiritual person or a spiritual practitioner can kind of get into this caricature. Is that how you say that word? Caricature mode, where, they kind of make a character of themselves. And I mean, we all do it, right? Hey, I'm the magic mirror. But it's like you can lose yourself in that and forget that, okay, I'm a human too. And yeah, I have people supporting me. I have people who like what I'm doing. I have people who love my offerings and my teachings, but I'm still a person, right? And so as a spiritualist, it kind of puts you in this awkward position where you want to protect yourself, and you do want to have a certain amount of dignity and pride in what you do, but it's that kind of delicate dance and balance that any practitioner would have to make, where it's like, okay, where is the vulnerability? Where is the connection point? Where is the humanity in what I'm doing? And how do I still pop my, that my workings work, my readings are on point, my astrology is tea. Okay, how do I still pop my while still remaining approachable, still not pedestalizing myself to a degree where I begin on the very people who are buying my products and who are supporting my workshops and going on my retreats and booking my services, right? Long story short, I covered a lot of stuff in that initial conversation. I talked about things like getting more specific in your gifts as a healer, as a practitioner, right? Because there's a lot of people who do tarot readings. There's a lot of people who do astrology readings and breakdowns. There's a lot of people who do shadow work and inner child healing. There's a lot of people who do a lot of different things. And so I felt as a channel for spirit, it was important for me to channel the message that as a healer, you need to know what you're really good at. You need to know what you truly have to offer to a client, to the collective. What are you really, really good at? Because if somebody can go to anybody for anything, that doesn't really make you stand out, right? You know, that's one of the reasons why I changed my platform to the Magic Mirror, is because once I started getting those sessions in with clients, and FYI, being very transparent, I haven't had a session with anybody since like 2022. But, you know, when I started having people book sessions with me, I started realizing that a lot of my clients, they needed somebody to kind of reflect back to them why they were great, why they were special, why they were necessary. They needed to see themselves in somebody else, and they needed someone to affirm them, right? And I can do all of that stuff, but I felt like it was kind of my job to hold their hand a little bit and just kind of like, yeah, get them out of that space of doubt and hesitation, but also to be that positive reflection that maybe they didn't have and maybe they didn't see in themselves, right? And so that is why I really changed my platform to the Magic Mirror. Also, even people who didn't book with me but had just been a part of my life, I realized that a lot of people that I came across, I realized that God blessed me with this unique ability to be a mirror to people, even unconsciously, right? And yes, I am a water spirit. So yes, you know, water is reflective of not just energy, but a lot of other things as well. So I do have this dominance of water, and it just gives me this very reflective ability. So I wanted to use that intentionally to help people see themselves and see how they can elevate their journey, and to help people stay aligned with their best selves, right? But you know, you can't see what's unique about you if you're not paying attention to your clients, to your sessions, okay, and seeing what people are getting from your work, you know. And if you are looking around, if your head is constantly on the swivel and you're just copying other practitioners, and or you know, seeing what's the hottest trend in spirituality and then making your version of that, right? I mean, you know, and I'm not saying anything is wrong with that. Sometimes you are going to have to, you know, say, okay, well, this is hot right now in spirituality. Okay, let me look into that and see what's really going on. And then you make a version that is aligned with your spirits and blah, 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 you know, and your teachings or whatever. Yeah, sometimes that's necessary, but at the same time, you want to be tapped in with what makes you unique, and you want to have something special and unique to offer for your people, for your tribe, for your community. So I covered all of that. And what I really want to talk about, we're gonna get a reading in, but what I want to focus on real quick is just the simple fact that one of the main things that I talked about in those conversations was how a lot of spiritual people online, whether they know it or not, they kind of are. I begin to see a trend where a lot of spiritual people were kind of acting as influencers, and they kind of were losing a little bit of that spiritual quality and becoming more influential, right? And spirituality is influential. I mean, you know, we spirituality has its own fashion sense, and it's a whole lifestyle, right? So, spirituality and how you choose to express that can definitely be influential. However, you don't want your spiritual journey and your spiritual message to become watered down or cloaked into a trend or a trendsetter type of, thing. Sometimes the message might not go viral. It still might be a message that the collective needs, that needs to be put out into the open, right? And I've talked about for years not getting too wrapped up in spiritual costumes, and okay, yeah, we can all dress up spiritual. Are we walking the walk? Are we aligning ourselves with the downloads that we're getting from source? And are we helping other people to align themselves better as well? That's what it's really about. It's not about how big we can wrap our hair, how big our earrings are, how many bracelets we can fit on our arms. It's not about that. And, a lot of spiritual practitioners online are women. So unfortunately, yes, boo-boo, I'm talking to you, okay? I'm talking to the spiritual girlies, the earthy girls who, yes, you want to dress up. You want to have the beautiful bandanas and the beautiful scarves. And guess what? Yeah, you're going to see me wear them too. But it's just about being conscious and being aware that you are truly, truly connected to source, and you are not just wearing the look of being connected to source. Because I had a video a short I just posted where I was talking about divine femininity and how, a lot of people, they talk about, oh, I'm in my divine feminine. And, divine feminine is not just a aesthetic. It's really embracing your darkness. It's dealing and facing the things that you don't like about other people. It's dealing and facing the things that you fear in yourself. It's actually being the person that you really, really are supposed to be, that other people don't want you to be. The divine feminine has been suppressed for a long, long, long time. And she is fighting. She's been fighting for centuries to be put back in the regard and the respects that she needs to be in. For a lot of healers, practitioners who are women, that's the work that we really have to be tapped into and that we really have to be doing. And it's not just an aesthetic, okay? Another thing is, it's not just a trend. One thing that I haven't really talked on, just because I don't want to, come across gossipy or anything, but I haven't talked on how a lot of celebrities have become initiated into African or diasporic traditional religions, right? I've seen like Summer Walker, SZA, Kalani, all have like initiations, and they never like fully post it. Although I have seen Kalani like actually verbatim post like she was at a certain spiritual event with her. I don't know, I think it's called a Elay or something. But I've also seen her post that, her Elay or whatever it is was toxic and she's done with them. That was years ago. But my point being is that, we, again, with the influence aspect, we have to really, really be careful about what we kind of put out there to people. Because, like, there's a lot of people I know that because they like Kalani, because they like SZA, because they like Summer Walker, because they listen to their music, now they're looking into African traditional religions. Now they're trying to go get initiated. And, First off, I don't really agree with just hopping up and going get initiated anywhere, because I'm of a strong belief that you need to know where your ancestors come from. Okay, a lot of y'all go get initiated or want to go get initiated into Ifa and Yoruba religions, and your ancestors were not Yoruba and they didn't practice Ifa. Okay, I'm one of those people. I never felt connected to Ifa. I never felt connected to anything, Yoruba or Nigerian, because that's not really where my people are from. My people do have roots in Africa. Duh, I'm Black. But it's not in Nigeria. And a lot of my ancestry, as I started this video off, comes from indigenous people. It comes from actually the Caribbean. So, you know, so with that knowledge, I was able to unlock religions and practices that were more aligned with my direct ancestry, right? And so it's like, you can't just go follow behind celebrities or influencers because, oh, I like them, so they must be right. Oh, I like their art, so yeah, they must be right about this path that they're taking. It's okay to have an interest in that, but actually do some research, right? And so for us as a practitioner, we have to encourage people that are watching us and following us to get more information and to do more research, and not just say, oh, I want to get initiated because so-and-so got initiated. I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm ready. You're not ready. Stop. You're not ready. You don't even know where your people come from. Okay? You don't even know. You don't know. You just don't know. So get more information, and as a practitioner and as a healer, if you can't provide them with that information before you influence them to follow something that you cannot provide them adequate information or reasoning on to follow, you need to be able to point them in a direction where they can get more information, where they can feel more secure in a decision to follow certain practices or take on whatever initiations that they're interested in, right? So the last channel message, and I was just looking back at my little notebook because I had wrote some things down a couple of days ago after I did a meditation where spirits specifically said it's time to update this conversation. So that's why I'm even filming this today. I want to just close this with this download. If anything, what you should be taking away right now from this conversation is that, as a practitioner, as a spiritualist, even if you're not initiated, even if you don't have a public facing platform where you're posting content and videos and spirit messages, every week or every month, if you do private work, if you do private readings, okay, you still need to make sure that your ego is not taking up too much space. All right, that's number one. All right, that did not change from the last conversation. Of course, your ancestors and your spirits who have you doing that work want you to be proud of yourself. Because I know my ancestors want me to be proud of myself when I have a video that, gets a lot of engagement or a lot of views. I'm happy about it because I'm like, yay, okay, that's more people that this message is getting to, blah, blah, blah. But don't get lost in the ego part of it, because as spiritualists, the work we're doing is really about healing ourselves first and foremost. Healers, okay? Because like I said, a lot of healers that I'm sending this video to are going to be women, okay? Are going to be femmes, okay? And like I said, the divine feminine has been suppressed. And so there is a divine feminine aspect of yourself that needs healing, and that is healing through the work that you're doing. make sure that you're conscious of that. Make sure that make sure that you're tapped into your own healing journey, and that your ego does not supersede the work that you're doing. And like I said, a lot of that ego can be checked by having the right connection and awareness of yourself and your own journey. Because like sometimes when we feel like we've healed certain things or we've worked through certain things, we can kind of, like I said, put ourselves on this pedestal of like, been there, done that, and I know how to work through that, and I know how to do. And it's like, okay, but what are you working on right now though? You know, because that might actually give you a reality check that, oh, I'm a healer, but I'm still working on some things. I'm a practitioner. Yeah, I know how to do all of these things, but I'm still working on some things too. And God is just using me as a channel and a messenger and a helping hand to help other people too. Okay, so there has to be an aspect of humility, vulnerability, and you still want to have that humanity in the way you show up, in the work that you're doing. Again, that message has not changed. Being specific, more specific as you can, with the work that you can offer, with what makes you different, what makes you stand out as a spiritualist and as a practitioner, is still important. That has also not changed. The only updates that I really gave in this conversation was to be more informative. You know, if you don't have the answer, find someone that does. And I talked about that a little bit in the last conversation, how when I said I want to see more spiritualists and practitioners working together, because I don't really see a lot of that. You know, I don't see a lot of people recommending another spiritualist when they might not be working on something, or they may not have a message about something. They don't recommend anybody. And hey, you might say the same thing about me. I have recommended people. Like I said, I did a whole video when I first started making content about people that I was watching at the time and how they were helping me, and I shouted them out. I repost other people's stuff. I'm always shouting people out. I stopped doing that because nobody was doing it for me. And people were stealing my content, retyping stuff that I was saying and writing on my page and passing it off as original. And I don't rock with that. I don't like stuff like that. I'm all for inspiration because I'm inspired by people too, but I don't like people who steal and lie. And I would love to have more community where, hey, look, oh, I'm not talking about that. I'm not working on that right now, but I know somebody who is. Go follow this person. Go book with this person. I would love to see more of that, and I would love to participate in things like that. But like I said, that kind of just goes in tangent. Last year when I was talking about the spiritual community, at least online, but I think in real life too, needs more unity. We need to work together more. But on top of that, we need to be more informative. Like I said, I feel that the people that we are giving information to, the people that we're delivering spirit messages to, our fan base, unknown and known, you know, our supporters, our community, known and unknown, if they can't get something from you, if you don't have an answer or a reason to explain whatever they're coming to you about, you need to be able to recommend someone who does. Because I feel like sometimes there is a lot of blind people leading blind people, you know, and like I just gave that example about celebrities going to get initiated, and then 2 years later they on TikTok talking about my Elay toxic and I hate my Elay and all of this different type of stuff. And it's just like, well, but you hopped up and went and got initiated and probably didn't even, research your bloodline, where your family come from. You didn't get enough information, and you just hopped up and got initiated into Ifa. And I'm not saying this is everybody, because some people really, really are connected to Yoruba land and the Ifa religion through their ancestors. But that's not everybody, and some people, hey, maybe you don't need to even do a ATR, a African religion. Maybe you need to, just tap into your own practice, or maybe you need to do something more indigenous. I don't know. I don't have the answer to that, but I do know, resources that can help you find those answers, right? And so that's why I'm saying, if you have people with questions as a practitioner that you don't know how to answer, I really, really think, instead of, again, being in your ego and saying, oh, well, they came to me and I gotta have an answer, just say you don't know, and then go connect them to somebody who maybe has more experience than you, maybe who has more different technology, or a longer amount of time using a certain divination tool where they can get more ancestors. I've gotten readings from people who they can do things that I don't think I can do. Like, I've gotten readings from people who they say they saw one of my ancestors pop up in the session. And it's like, I've done sessions before. I've never seen nobody ancestor. Just saying, that's not one of my gifts. I've never seen nobody's ancestor pop up, right? So if somebody came to me and asked me, can I do an ancestral reading? Well, I don't do ancestor readings. You know what I'm saying? Like, I channel spirit and I do channel ancestors, but I don't always know that it's an ancestor. I just know that it's something that you need to hear, and it's a loud message that comes through, and I just repeat it for you. That's basically what I do half the time that I've done readings. So it's like, I'm not gonna, if somebody asks me, oh, can you do an ancestor reading? I'm gonna recommend them to somebody that I know does ancestor-based readings. It's that simple. So I think the main thing that Spirit really wants me to communicate right now to healers and practitioners in 2025, as I update this conversation, is to reclaim the right to not know. You know what I'm saying? Reclaim the right to be like, I actually can't help you with that, but here's somebody who can. It's okay to recommend somebody else. And it's also okay to just be more informative. Help your clients. Help people who look up to you, or are influenced by you, or seek your opinion and seek your guidance. Help them to get the information that they need, and don't always just be so excited to read them or to introduce them to a religion or a topic or a possibility of initiation or whatever type of journey. Help people get informed. Be an informant, so that we can have less people who are just blindly influenced by spirituality and, like I said earlier, the aesthetic of it all. And they can really, really get healed. They can really, really get connected. They can really, really get aligned because they have more accurate information. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Wow, I didn't really expect that to come through, but that's beautiful. Here is the last message that I want to give to healers and practitioners. Whatever your title is, whatever your gifts are, whether you do astrology, tarot, oracle, you're clairvoyant, clairsentient, you work roots, you do hoodoo, you're initiated, you're uninitiated, whatever it is that you do, this message is meant for you, okay? Here it is. Last message is get back to the basics. I think that we are now in 2025, and some of us, no matter what path or journey we're on, we sometimes forget that it's the simple stuff that got us through the tough times. It is the breathing techniques. It's the meditations. It is the channeling, the journaling, simple things that allowed us to sometimes connect with spirit. It wasn't always the elaborate rituals. It wasn't always the 25 card readings. Okay. It wasn't always the initiation or the title or whatever. It wasn't always the complications that made us connect with source, right? Sometimes it was just the stillness. Sometimes it was just the darkness. Sometimes it was just the quiet that got us connected to source and allowed us to tap into the downloads and the breakthrough that we needed to move forward. And so sometimes as healers and practitioners, we can get to a level where we forget about the simplicity of a prayer. We forget about the simplicity of a meditation, of just a simple breathwork practice, right? And then we wonder why we stop making breakthroughs. We wonder why we stop growing, and we wonder why we don't have any new downloads to share with the collective. It's because sometimes things have gotten too complex. And that's something that Spirit definitely allowed me to see this year. I started off my year offline. I pulled away from the internet, but I didn't just pull away from the internet. I also pulled away from astrology. I decided, okay, I'm just going to start the year off. I'm not going to buy an astrology calendar. I'm just going to have the first couple months of this year just no astrology, not watching a bunch of people readings and spirit messages. And I'm just going to, for lack of better words, raw dog the beginning of 2025 and just see what happens. But in doing that, it brought me back to the basics, and sometimes as practitioners, as healers, as diviners, as channels, we can get so wrapped up into these different spiritual technologies and these different rituals and practices that we forget how it all started. For me, it started in the stillness. It started in the darkness. It started in the quiet. It started in the journaling, in the meditation, in the simple prayer. Okay. And that's when more and more and more clarity came through and things were revealed. And then I was able to tap deeper and deeper and deeper into my own divine feminine. Don't forget about the basics. Go back to the basics if you need to, if you get stuck, if the complex rituals and the complex altar work and spells and it is not hitting. Even if you're initiated, if your initiation ain't hitting, okay, go back to the basics. It is okay. Because, I'll share this with you. Being that I was starting my Saturn return this year, I went ahead and I got a reading from a priestess, one that I've never been to before, but I was really interested in her because of who she's initiated into. And, she gave me a message because I asked her about my own initiation. She basically told me yeah, you can get initiated, but it's not really that important, because she gave me this message about how my biggest initiation is going to be through myself and with myself, right? So it's that's a message that I just wanted to share with you, other healers and practitioners, because whether you're initiated or not, the biggest initiation that you'll ever have is going to be the relationship with yourself, is going to be the growth within yourself. And so don't let any complex or heightened sense of authority or awareness trick you into believing that the basics don't have things to offer you as well. You know, all these things, these different things can influence us that we're closer to God. As a healer, as a practitioner, doing different things or having certain titles or following certain rituals or practices, you know, it can all make you feel like, it can give you that illusion that you're closer to God, when really what Spirit and God wants you to know and see is that you are God. You are God. God simply means that you are a creator. The trick is knowing what you are creating. Are you a creator of chaos? Are you a creator of confusion? Are you a creator of mess and drama? Right? Because you could be a god of mess, a god of gossip. You could be a god of chaos. You could be a god of destruction, right? When you realize that Source is just trying to connect with you so that you can get the gifts and talents, the skills that you possess can be amplified, can be given the glory that they really deserve and used for their highest and greatest good. You won't let anything give you the illusion you're closer because of this initiation. You're closer because of this outfit that you're wearing, or this hairstyle that you're wearing, or, you know, this certain ritual that you're doing. And it's not to say some of those things are not valid, because some of those things do elevate you in a way and do connect you in a way with certain ancestral spirits and customs and things that just make your life better, right? But it can also be used to, like I said, blind you from the power that you naturally already possess. Like I said, when you just go back to the basics, you find the simplicity in your spirituality and your spiritual practices. The things that you are most abundant in, that's what you're meant to share. That's what you're meant to help people with. That's what you're meant to use to heal people with. So as a practitioner, as a healer, as a creator, as a source energy, because you can be a source too. You got to know what those things are. Don't let those gifts, those abundance of gifts and talents and the light that you have to share be hidden behind an ego or some sense of authority or some title or a costume or way of dress that may be being promoted. I really do want to get a quick reading for the healers in. So I'm going to try to do that as quick as I can. I hope that I have offered some words of encouragement to healers and practitioners out there in the collective. Because again, we are always giving messages and insights to other people, but nobody is giving messages and insights to us. Interesting. Last time when I did do the reading on the healers, it was really about how a lot of healers were burnt out. Okay, a lot of healers were burnt out in whatever works and offerings they had, whether that was filming content, doing collective messages, doing workshops, doing retreats, doing rituals, group spells, whatever it is, whatever the sessions were. A lot of healers was worn out. And Spirit was just saying, like, stop limiting yourself, stop tying yourself down, switch it up, do things a little differently. Like, you know, y'all can go back and see the message for yourself. But there was a big message there as well about getting back to an ancestral practice. Because just like the message I just talked about, you know, a lot of us can get into this complex state of understanding, or we do go through the initiations, or we just get more information, and sometimes that information, and sometimes that initiation, and sometimes the title, and whatever things that may elevate us to a new understanding can simultaneously disconnect us from the source, from the basics, from the things that really, really do give us the downloads and the breakthroughs, right? And the aha moments. So we don't want to get so high that we disconnect from the things that keep us grounded and tapped in the first place. Again, go back to that message on the initial videos for this conversation if you guys just want to refresh on things that were discussed there. I don't really want to give, like, I did a problem solution reading then, but right now I'm just going to focus on giving an encouraging message to healers and practitioners out there in the collective. If you see this, you know, share your information with me. I would love to follow your platforms. And like I said, you know, we can shift things into a different space by shouting each other out and, you know, building some type of community. You know, hell, I'm even interested in, hey, look, let me try some of your services out so that I can recommend some stuff, because I ain't gonna recommend nothing and I ain't even tried it myself. Okay. But yes, so drop your information, because I would love to, you know, connect with more people who are interested in healing work and healing arts and just the magic that can happen when we tap into the other side. Right now, I'm just asking for an enlightened word and message for practitioners at this time. I have my first card. Beautiful, beautiful message already. I'm going to keep pulling these cards, guys. I haven't pulled these in a long time. Yeah, I don't really want to focus on what the problem is with practitioners, because like I said, maybe y'all might get a problem message, you know, next year or whenever I update this conversation again, which will probably be in a year. But like I said, right now, first of all, I haven't even really been tapped in. Like I said, I haven't been tapped in like that on the internet, looking at healers and all of that. So that's why I don't want to focus on what the problem is, because I don't know. As long as you're not burnt out and you're working on honing your unique skills, and like I said, taking the messages that have come through in this video and the last video, I don't know what to tell you. If you can't see what the problem might be, I don't know what to tell you. So yeah, I'm going through all my decks. Like I said, getting a positive, enlightened message to give healers in 2025. Woo! to offer a sense of direction as far as what our practice needs to look like and how it should be and feel and look moving forward 2025 and beyond. Okay, wow, these cards are just flying out. The first thing that I want to say before I do show you the cards though is I want to address people who may not be practitioners, healers, who are just people that maybe you do your own thing and maybe you just do it for you. You haven't done any sessions or anything for anybody else, and maybe you will in the future, who knows. But if you are just a consumer of spirituality and you just do it for yourself, you're not trying to put yourself out there to help other people, and you just happen to run across this video, you can watch this video and you can use this as a way to kind of vet spiritualists and practitioners that you're interested in working with. You can look at this video as a way to make sure that you're not engaging with people who wear the face or the mask or the costume of practitioner or healer or spiritualist, but they seem as if they carry themselves with a lot of ego. You know, they deal with you or other clients or fans of their work with a lot of ego. You can also use this to check, make sure you're not just engaging with people who people who claim they do shadow work and claim they do all these things. There's nothing unique or special that sets them apart from just a generic tarot reader or whatever else is out there, right? You can use this to just see, okay, am I engaging with a healer or a practitioner who is being honest about their journey and who is actually talking about what they're working through, so that I can know that, oh, they're actually a real, a person who is aware that they're on a journey too, and they're not just the pot calling the kettle black, talking about healing this and healing that, but they're not even aware of the work that they're still doing, right? So if you are not a practitioner and you're not a healer, you're not any of those things, and you don't want to be, or maybe you're not sure, you can use this video to vet people that are. You can also use this video, like I said, if you are thinking about stepping into that space and stepping into that calling. You can use this video to make sure that you're aligning with that role for the right reasons and that you're approaching it in the right way. Because this work, although yes, it can come with some notoriety, it might even come with a little bit of fame. When we talk about people like Marie Laveau is world famous for her spiritual work. But at the end of the day, even though she has that notoriety, it's still about the work that she was able to do and the glory that Spirit was able to bring to her natural gifts so that she could share that with the world. All right, so the first card that I pulled, and like I said, this is a inspirational message. This is a uplifting message for healers and practitioners, to just give you a sense of direction on your path as a healer and where you should be going, what you should be doing, okay? So here we go. When it feels right, do it. There may be a lot of practitioners, a lot of spiritualists who maybe you have like an exciting idea, maybe you have like a bold, bright idea that you want to put out there. And I kind of got this when I did the first the first Even Healers Need Healing message, where Spirit was kind of telling us as healers, practitioners, spiritualists, to think outside the box and just don't limit ourselves. And it's okay to do things differently. It's okay to not be a cookie cutter spiritual person, right? Because this is something that I didn't get to touch on that I really, really did want to touch on. What I am seeing a lot of is like a lot of spiritual people, they're like renouncing spirituality. Like some of the spiritualists and like practitioners, even like I think a priestess that I followed, she like denounced her tradition, and she's like changing her content to everything like anti African traditional religion and everything anti astrology, and but like she built her platform off of those things, right? This is something that I really, really wanted to say, and I'm so glad Spirit put it back on my heart before I end this video. The reason why a lot of people are renouncing or denouncing, I don't know the right word right now, but the reason why they're doing away with spirituality or spiritual traditions, traditional practices, is because they made it their entire identity, right? And so I think a lot of people, they get lost in being an astrologer. They get lost in whatever they're initiated into. They get lost in being a tarot reader. They get lost in being a hoodoo or, whatever type of practitioner they are. It becomes their whole identity. And, I just think that as healers, as practitioners, as spiritualists, it's really, really important that you do have an identity outside of your spiritual practice. Because if not, you're going to lose yourself in it. And then when you kind of come out of that rabbit hole, you're going to feel like you need to denounce it because you realize that there's more to life than just sitting in front of the altar all day and all night and pulling cards all day and all night and reading the Bible all day and all night and doing rituals all day and all night and going to the spiritual events and all the healing activities. There's more to life than just the spiritual, and you actually have to do other types of work and other activities. And sometimes we can also use spirituality as a escape route, from actually being human and actually having to live life and have new experiences and go through things. We can use it as an escape. Well, if I just stay in the temple, and if I just stay in the church, and if I just stay in front of my altar and pray and meditate and pull cards and journal and claim I'm doing shadow work all day and all night, I won't have to face anything else bad. I can just live this peaceful, aligned life, when really you're living an avoidant life, a very avoidant, fearful life. A lot of that is because many spiritualists, they may denounce their spiritual practice. They may give up their title or whatever it is because, like I said, they lost themselves in it. And when they come back up out of the rabbit hole, they realize it was just me all along. I had more power than I thought I had. That's why it's so important not to lose touch with the basics, not to get so much height that you lose connection from the ground, from the roots, because everything at the root is simple. It is so simple. Sometimes it's us humans, and it's all our philosophies and all of our rituals and all of our things that we create that makes it complicated. And I really, really think that God and our ancestors and our spirits are so much more simple than we really even think. you know, whatever changes that you need to make in your practice, in your content, in your services, in your approach, when it feels right, do it. Don't be scared to do something outside of the box, switch things up, take a new road. Even if that does mean that you switch up your practice or your path as a spiritualist. If that means you gonna go ahead and get initiated, cool. If it feels right, do it. If that means that you want to get uninitiated, you want to denounce your spiritual path and you want to go a new route, if it feels right, do it. Right now, for everybody, not just healers, not just practitioners, not just spiritualists, the name of the game is finally fully trusting yourself in 2025. If you are not able to feel when things are not energetically aligned with you as a practitioner, how are you going to help someone else who also doesn't know when to gauge those things, right? So when it feels right, do it. All right, let's move on to the next message, which actually really aligns with this color scheme here. Purple is a very spiritual color. So I love that. And I also have on my purples. So hey, we're all in alignment, okay? So here we go. Crown chakra awareness, okay? We have an energy to focus on our crown chakra, okay? Spirit is letting us know that, first off, what I heard is meditation. A lot of us really need to get back to a simple meditation practice. A simple meditation practice, okay? Like I said, getting back to the basics. And one of those basics is a simple meditation practice, okay? I said that a lot, so I hope that that's triggering something within you, okay? Awareness, raising your awareness, awakening and connecting your crown chakra with source, getting more and more in touch with your ori, so that you can really get the next steps to your journey as a practitioner, as a spiritualist, as a guide, as a diviner, as a channel. You can get those next steps by tapping in with your crown chakra, getting back to simple meditation, raising your awareness. That also taps into the thing I said about allowing other people to get more information by giving more information and not being afraid to inform them of things beyond the spectrum of what you have to offer, okay? So make sure that you're not just raising awareness for yourself, but raising awareness for other people and towards other people as well. No shortcuts. Okay, so Spirit wants practitioners, healers, spiritualists, anybody who is offering something to other people in a spiritual setting, not to take shortcuts, okay? There is not a shortcut to getting more, okay? So I keep talking about these things because this is just what's coming through. But, you know, getting an initiation is not a shortcut to more power, more influence, of whatever it is you think is going to get more knowledge, more intuition. It's not a shortcut. You know, there's still work to be done, and we got to be willing to show up and do the work, whatever that looks like at this time for each of us. But just know, don't try to take the shortest route to whatever or wherever Spirit is calling you to. I see protection. So what I'm seeing right now is that a lot of spiritualists need to protect themselves, okay? Not everybody is your client. Not everybody is somebody that you need to work with or you need to help them heal through. You need to help heal through something. It's okay to reject people who want your services or want to work with you or want to engage with you at this time. Protect your energy. That's what's coming through right now with this protection card. Protecting your energy online as well. A lot of spiritual practitioners have online platforms, and they're sharing information, and they're sharing their energy, and they're sharing, you know, how to do certain rituals and blah blah blah. You know, hey, look, not everything is for the internet. Some things are just for people who want to, you know, sometimes you got to put stuff behind a paywall. Look, you only gonna get so much for free. You're a spiritualist, you're a practitioner, you tap in and you ask your Ori, you ask your guides, your spirits, how you need to protect yourself if you are a spirit worker and what that looks like for you. Okay, that's just the card that I got. Next card I got from my New Orleans Voodoo Tarot deck is this Laplace card. And this card shows a fiery crossroad type energy. So I haven't dealt with these cards in a while. I am going to just look into specifically what that card means real quick. It ain't gonna take me too long, but while I'm doing that, I want to also show you the last card, which happens to be the 10 of Diamonds. And the 10 of Diamonds talks about completion, finality. It kind of talks about full circle moments. It talks about reaching a new level. Like it's like it's saying you're almost there. Like you're almost to the end of something that maybe you've been working through, and you're about to reach a new height, maybe in your practice, in your services, in the way you approach your work as a healer, the way you maybe approach clients or whatever it is. What the 10 of Diamonds is kind of showing along with those things is like you're approaching the end of a chapter. So just keep that in mind. It could be you're approaching the end of a certain type of work that you're doing or something that you're offering. Maybe you don't need to offer it anymore. Maybe you don't need to do that type of work anymore. I'm not sure what that is for you, but just keep that in mind. Like I said, these are all things to inspire you as a practitioner, to give you a sense of direction and inspiration as to what you could be doing next and how you're showing up as a spiritualist and a practitioner. Okay, so I found that card. What I'm hearing is let your passion lead you through the crossroad. Let your passion, and I feel like this message was in the last reading that I did for healers from, you know, December 2023. And now we're in July 2025, August 2025. For those of you who are watching, I'm filming this at the end of July. It's really funny, you know, it's like let your passion, what you're passionate about, the topics that you're passionate about, the things that you're passionate about healing and working through, let that lead you through whatever blocks that you may be coming up against as a healer and a practitioner. And that's why it's so important to be tapped in to what feels right, because what feels right is probably gonna be what you're most passionate about in your healing work. And you know, your healing work may not necessarily look like traditional healing, you know, and because I definitely feel like that, you know, as I get more tapped into what my true purpose is, because it's not sitting in front of a camera talking about healing work. Contrary to what it may seem, right? Even though I'm doing this, you know, there are so many ways that we can offer healing to the collective that is not necessarily just, you know, so cookie cutter or so traditional. Let me sit down and talk to you about all these things. Let me have a therapy session with you. Let me have a reading with you. There's other ways that we can offer healing to each other and to the collective. And like I said, Spirit keeps telling us as healers to not put ourselves in a box, and to not be afraid to step outside of what traditional healing may look like, because that untraditional offering that you have may be the breakthrough that somebody really needs to get their healing and to get connected to source and to get back into alignment with themselves, so that they too can move forward from you as a teacher and a guide to help someone else, and to be a teacher and a guide for another person that needs to be brought up to their next level and into their alignment.